here's Alex again with our next part on the Java Business Service. Walk around, float around, whatever you call it. So here we are looking at the underlying architecture for Java Business Services as of IP17 and higher. So it's very different in IP16 and earlier, but with IP17 we got these Tomcat servers and higher, of course. So the SES internal Tomcat, or the internal application container, or the very often also referred to as the configuration agent container, because that's the one that lives near or with a Siebel server on the same machine. So I refer to it as SES to refer to the Siebel server more than the configuration agent, which is also part of it. So let's not fall into that trap with naming conventions. So that's the Tomcat that is on the same machine as the Siebel server. And it's with every Siebel server in your environment. And on the Siebel server, of course, you have an object manager running. Could be the application object manager or workflow process manager, etc. So if a Java Business Service is invoked typically through either a step in a workflow process or eScript or runtime events, etc. There are so many ways to invoke a business service, really, but it's probably one of those three. Could be different. So it invokes the Java Business Service that you have defined in your repository. It invokes a method, of course, of this one. And we have learned that Java Business Services have a special class and a user property which points to the definition of that Java class in a jar file, which we learned has to be positioned on each and every of those internal Tomcats in the webinflib directory. And there might be other files that you need to place, need to take care of, like key store files for if there are outbound connectivity to external web servers, or XML files, logback files, etc. So that Java Business Service is invoked, but how does the Java code on the Tomcat actually get to run? The ingredient, the secret ingredient, or not so secret actually, is this enterprise profile, which you also can refer to as a named subsystem. And this is called JAVA64. So the 64, of course, referring to the 64-bit characteristic of the Tomcat. So while the Siebel server at the time of this recording and the object manager on it is confined to C++ 32-bit code, the Tomcat is modern in any current version, and of course it runs 64-bit Java. So hence the JAVA64 naming here. And that profile has literally one parameter that is important, and that parameter points to nothing else than the localhost Tomcat port of the internal Tomcat running on localhost. And since that is localhost, it doesn't even need to be HTTPS or TLS, saving some valuable time, less time for the handshake and verification. So it's just a simple HTTP call, no HTTPS, to the local host, of course followed by the port number that the internal Tomcat is listening on HTTP, and Siebel/JBS. So that is actually the endpoint address, if you will, of a Java servlet that Oracle provides. So that servlet is generic. It's called JBS, Java Business Service. It can run any Java class that's required. So the Java class, of course, is part of that request. And then on the Tomcat, the Java subsystem can execute the class code which we have stored in the jar files. And so the class code can do many things, like, calculate the fuel requirements for a space trip, or of course it can also connect to other environments, that is external or internal environments. So we have here an example for an external connectivity through HTTPS or TLS secured to an external, let's say, cloud application, or which most of the time is a web server connection, but behind that is probably there's a REST API, there's a queuing, there's Kafka, or there's an AI service that you want to talk to, whatever you please. And that, of course, is optional. You don't have to do it every time. So that's why we use the dashed arrow here. And if that happens, of course, you need to come back to your key stores, or your trust stores rather, and put the certificates, the root certificates, intermediate certificates of the signing certificate authority of that external server into your trust store so that the connectivity works. So that's some extra work we discuss here. It's not part of this module or of this video, but you get the general idea. So let's visit our example Java Business Service one more. So I can calculate a space mission here, as you know, and I want to go to Mars with a payload of, well, 100 tons is probably too much, but let's say send a rover with 5 tons. And let's delete that old output here. And let's run that. And since I run it just now, I get a response and tells me, okay, you can go to Mars if you fuel up a really big rocket. And that was very quick, of course, but let's trace back the steps. Now let's go to the application container internal folder on that Siebel server machine, and the logs folder will, of course, tell us, okay, what log files have recently changed. And since this is a web server, there's also a localhost access log. So let's look at the access log for today. And you can see that there are several posts today. And the last one was just right now as I record this. And there was a post request to Siebel JBS. See that? See what we're doing here? And there's your class path. That's taken from the repository definition. And that's your method. So that's exactly what we said. There's a request coming in with HTTP to that server, to that Tomcat server, requiring the Siebel JBS servlet to run the Java code for this Java class and pass this as the method name. So you can really see it all work out here. And that comes back with a 200, so well received and everything okay. And of course the result, we don't see the result traveling back, but we saw that in the business service simulator. It just saw it arrive back to the object manager and we can display it here. Of course, we didn't use a workflow or eScript. We just used a good old business service simulator. But that's the same. It's an object manager invoking a method of a Java business service. Okay, so that's it for the architecture part of JBS. And let's stop by briefly at the end of this recording on the Siebel Hub Learning Experience, where you would be remiss if you don't look into the Siebel CRM training options that we have. We have a full curriculum of high quality, always up-to-date Siebel CRM trainings. And for example, the Siebel New Features for Application Integrators is a great course that allows you not only to learn about the Java integration, which you just saw a part of in this video, but also all the other good bits and pieces that Oracle has added for integration technology since IP17 or since IP16, because it of course includes the REST API, the CSV data export, OCI AI services in 24.9 Glory, the event publication subscription with Kafka, the Java integration, DISA, CalDAV, CardDAV, portlets, you name it. So check out this course or any other of our courses and see how much value you get with our video trainings. Thanks much for watching. Take care and bye-bye.